several health risks to communities. Sorry, I have cold, but I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me well?
Yes, please, we can.
All right, thank you
Yes.
so much. So
Yes,
I will
we
be
can
talking
hear you.
on youth participation estimates in the African sector, in African countries. We have 3 top countries that have their youths participating majorly in mining. That is the Republican of Congo, Ghana, and Tanzania. In Congo, we have 60 to 70% of youths actively involved in artisanal mining, ASM. In Ghana, we have up to 60%. In Tanzania, we have 50 to 60%. And the youth in this category are of the ages 18 to 35. And that constitutes the majority of the workforce in key mining nations, making them the primary demographic for driving sector transformation. So moving on now to the economic necessity, the push and the pull factors. Why do youth engage in ASM? A lot of the youth do not have a choice based on the high unemployment rates in rural areas. That's why most of them are forced into crude mining for quick income. A speaker mentioned before, like a lot of them are not paid the wages worth because they do not have a choice. They need to find what to eat. And then they're just paid little cash, little money when they could have gotten more. And then the third reason why they engage is vulnerability. Without regulation, young miners are often exploited by middlemen and exposed to hazardous conditions. Now, from informal to formal, that is the cooperative model. How can we make this a bit better for youth that are involved in mining? Right now, someone mentioned when she was speaking, she said, right now, youth are forming registered cooperatives to gain collective bargaining power and protect themselves from exploitation. And I feel it should be encouraged more. In each country, there should be an organization in charge of that, where youths that are involved or are interested in mining, they have an organization that is backing them up. Then a legal status. Dr. Victoria spoke about that a bit, where you register, groups register, then they lobby for designated mining zones and better regulatory compliance. Also, for market access, organized groups can access formal supply chains, ensuring fair prices and traceability for their minerals. If there's an organization that has legal backing, you know, okay, if you mine for this so hour, this is your wages. If you mine for this in this area, in this community, this is what you're meant to be paid. This is the worth of what you're meant to be paid. Then youth will no longer be exploited, and then they will be more interested in like involving themselves in artisanal mining. And then I will be talking also about the digital innovation and safety. As we all know, youths in their 18th, between the age group of 18 to 35, they are the major people involved in artisanal mining, and we should encourage them by diving into digital innovation. The youth demographic is uniquely positioned to modernize the mining sector through technology. We can start the use of adoption of digital payments to improve financial inclusion and reduce the risk associated with cash handling. From research, we've even seen when people come to mine these youths and then they pay them the penny, as opposed to what they are meant to be paid originally, they end up being robbed even before they leave that area, the community. But if you adopt digital payments, okay, once you're ready to mine, you're interested in this, you bring your bank details, then we pay you directly into your bank details what you are worth. And there's, of course, if there are organizations regulating how much it's worth for someone who mines per hour or per day, per week, whatever works. And then like, okay, if I'm working for so hour, this is how much I will earn. It's transparent. Nobody is cheating anybody. Also, making use of the drone technology. Young entrepreneurs are utilizing drones for geological survey. I think it's happening in America. Dr. Luke Kemi Akemushore spoke about this. We can start utilizing it in African countries, where you survey the land that is needed for mining ahead with drone. Surveying it, geological surveying, environmental monitoring, that will offer a safer and a high-tech alternative to traditional prospecting methods. And it reduce the risk associated with mining when We have used technology to go, okay, to what depth, to what limit do we need to mine? It's not just like a try and error thing. Let's try this, let's try that. But when we have used technology to survey the lands that we're about to go to mining, and then we know, okay, we're to go this deep, we're to go this low. And then the environmental stewardship, that is eliminating mercury. Mercury is the major source of concern when it comes to mining, aside deforestation and all of that. It's a major health hazard. And we need, for our youth to thrive in artisanal mining, they need to be trained and to be in a safe and in a cleaner technology. And I'll be presenting cleaner alternatives that we can use. We can use the gravimetry method, that is using gravity-based method to separate gold without chemicals. We can also use the borax method, that is a safer chemical-free alternative for melting gold concentrate. That will reduce the level of mercury that is being produced into the atmosphere. I know a lot of youth now, they are so informed. They know, oh, if I'm doing this and then my health is at risk, I'm liable to be exposed to cancer. They are not encouraged to go into this. And we need more of our youth to be formally involved in artisanal mining. The third is health advocacy. Youth-led campaigns are effectively spreading awareness, just like what we are doing, Tiwa out there is doing in collaboration with CISR and WiM-Africa, bringing trainings, leading campaigns on how the youth are encouraged to go into artisanal mining. And we're encouraging them to bring their technological ways into this, their technical know-how, their skills, their exposure to help us to mine in a safer zone and a safe environment. Then how can we restore the health? Based on the previous mining in the past and still ongoing, some communities are still really in Africa, really into the crude method of mining. They are yet to upscale. So how can we restore the land that has been destroyed? That is land reclamation. That is reforestation. When we have youth environmental brigades replanting trees to restore vegetative cover, it will be like, okay, for everybody that is done in this community, these are the number of trees that must be planted. There should be laws that govern that. Soil stabilization, filling abandoned pits and stabilizing soil for future agricultural use. Also, agro-mining to linking post-mining land use to food security and climate resilience. Most times after mining, most of those lands are left fallow like that. We could make use of those lands, make them available for agro-mining. The vision for the future, in conclusion, we are transforming the identity of the young miner from a desperate laborer into a responsible entrepreneur and environmental steward. As much as everybody wants to mine, most youth want to mine just to get a source of income. We're trying to change their mindset, not just being someone that has to just mine anyway, anyhow, just to get money and then be paid low compared to what they are worth. We're trying to transform the youth, the young miner, from a desperate laborer into a responsible entrepreneur, know that they can make much money from going into mining, and then being an environmental steward. Thank you so much. Together, we can transform the future of mining. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mofinyi Folua. Thank you so much for your presentation. A lot of times we like to involve youths because they bring new ideas, fresh ideas, and they have the young energy. Thank you for, giving us some pointers to get youths formally involved in mining, not just as entrepreneurs, but also as environmental stewards. Thank you so much for your presentation. We'll move to the next presenter, David Akinmusire, for his presentation. David, if you're in the room, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Good day, everyone.
Yep.
Can you all hear me?
Okay.
Good afternoon. We can hear you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Akinmusire David, and senior youth advocate. I'd like to welcome you all to this beautiful program. It has been really insightful. So yeah, I'll be focusing on the role of research and youth. in transformation of artisanal mining. And like Fini rightly said, and Dr. Akimeshere as well, I have 250 million lives globally depend on artisanal mining, but at what cost? And as Dr. Akimeshere rightly said, 40 to 50 million people in Africa are artisanal miners. They are artisanal miners, and 80 to 100 million people depend on it directly or indirectly. These are a couple key facts that we're supposed to know about artisanal mining. And it is the largest source of rural employment in many developing countries. In about 80 artisanal mining, according to survey, is being practiced actively in about 80 countries and in a lot of countries in sub-Saharan Africa, such as Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, and so on. It is almost entirely informal and unregulated. Because it is mostly small scale, it is almost always informal and it is almost always unregulated. Now, there are a couple major challenges that artisanal mining is facing currently. High rates of fatal accidents and tunnel collapses. Like I said before, because it is small scale, there are often fatal accidents and tunnel collapses rather. As I think it was Dr. Comfort who mentioned, like she said in Niger, they got information that there were a couple fatal accidents. And then there's widespread mercury and cyanide poisoning. In artisanal mining, they adopt methods such as using mercury and also panning. So what they do is they mix mercury with, for example, gold. When they are mining gold, they mix mercury with this gold, and what it does is it binds itself to those gold particles, so that at the end of the day, when it is extracted, you can get the pure gold. All those other impurities are washed away. It binds itself to gold. There's also significant child labor and the worst forms of exploitation. And I believe it has also been said here, you have children of about 6, 7 being forced into labor, being forced to work at mines. And this ordinarily should not be heard of, but then unfortunately, it's the reality we find ourselves in. It's a major contributor to deforestation and to water pollution because of the usage of toxic materials like cyanide and also mercury. It causes deforestation. I mean, when you mine, you're mining away, you're cutting down trees, you're mining away, the good part of the soil. So it causes deforestation and also water pollution. Now it's linked to conflict materials and human rights abuses. That's closely related to child labor, and then oftentimes these children are maltreated. These children are even abused sexually, both male children and female children. This is unfortunately the current reality that we have on artisanal mining, but it can change. Moving on, we have the real face of mining today, Generation Gold, which are our youth. The youth are the majority. As Fini rightly mentioned, 70% of artisanal miners are between the ages of 15 and 35, prime years for a youth. Youth in artisanal mining are not just workers, they are the primary labor force. I mean, 70% of artisanal miners are youth, so they are the primary labor force. They are digital natives ready to adopt new tools. I mean, a lot of youth don't even know the power that they carry with, a lot of devices that they have. The world is digitalized currently, and we haven't fully tapped into what that digitalization can give us. Youth are also entrepreneurs seeking fairer systems. They're community leaders demanding safety and respect. And they are not waiting to be saved, though. They are ready to, I won't say they now, we are ready to lead the transformation. Moving on to research. Research as the game changer, when youth experience meets research expertise. Now, research has been able to help us identify a couple traditional problems. Mercury-based gold processing. Like I said before, mercury is one of the most toxic things to let into the atmosphere and to inhale into your body. It can cause a lot of nerve damage and ultimately death. Also, research has been able to make us understand that we have a lack of geological knowledge. When it comes to artisanal mining, people do not really know their surroundings. Perhaps they get info that, okay, gold has been spotted, or tin has been spotted, or cobalt has been spotted at one particular area. They do not have proper knowledge of the area, whether it's susceptible to landslides or whatever whatever natural disaster, and they just proceed with no prior knowledge of the area. So there's a strong lack of geological knowledge, unsafe tunnels, and poor ventilation. Because artisanal mining is often small scale, there is no, Dr. Akinsheri mentioned machinery. There is no machinery to make sure to test that those tunnels are safe. And unfortunately, we have humans going into those tunnels with, no, with their safety being at risk rather. So we have unsafe tunnels and poor ventilation, which could be disastrous. Exploitation by middlemen. Again, as a result of the small scale that is artisanal mining for now, people do not have access to the global markets. So those middlemen that do often tend to exploit and want to pay those miners peanuts while they get those minerals and they sell them for good money. So there's often exploitation by middlemen. Of course, where there are problems, there must be solution. So these are research-driven solutions that, research, as a result of research, we've been able to come up with some solutions, which is mercury-free extraction methods such as bioleaching and gravimetric. I want to thank Finyi very much for explaining the gravimetric extraction method to us, using gravity for extraction. I have bioleaching here. Bioleaching is simply using microorganisms, living microorganisms for extraction. Now, it might look expensive, but in this case, ignorance is more costly. Low-cost safety and ventilation technologies. It doesn't always have to be very, very expensive in that it costs millions of dollars. There are a couple low-cost safety and ventilation technologies when it comes to ASM and artisanal mining. Drone and satellite mapping of mineral resources, mineral deposits rather. Human beings don't have to be your test subject or don't have to be the dummies. You watch and check, or if something happens to this person and then we know this area is not safe. We have drones for that. The world has evolved. So you can use drones and use them for satellite mapping of your mineral deposits so you know where and where not to go. Blockchain and mobile apps for fair pricing and traceability. That would give the average miner access to the global markets so that exploitation by middlemen would stop or significantly reduce. Youth know every corner of the mine. Researchers bring cutting-edge science. Together, we could bring about rapid practical innovation. Now, so it's just not by mouth. There are a couple success stories. It already works. And we have that with the Columbia Oroved project, where youth cooperatives came together, with universities to partner for the world's first green certified artisanal gold. That's using zero mercury to mine gold and, selling it at the premium market price. Even in Tanzania, Drone Girls Project, some teenage girls were trained in drone mapping and they were able to close 60% of illegal and dangerous pits. And even in DR Congo as well, youth-led child labor eradication. This is just to tell you that they are not exceptions. They are blueprints for us that we can replicate and we should replicate. Moving on, I have 2030 transformation model, building a sustainable artisanal mining ecosystem. And I have 6 interconnected pillars. 6 things that can help us. Youth leadership councils in every mining community. Yes, youth own the world now. So if we have leadership councils made up of youth, progress will be rapid. University and community innovation hubs, mercury-free technology training centers. Like I said, mercury does more harm than good in artisanal mining. So we need more mercury-free training centers so they can teach us other ways in which we can extract those minerals without having to depend on mercury. Fair trade and digital platforms and traceability systems. This would give us access to the global market directly and not have to depend on middlemen. Microfinance and savings programs designed for young miners. and also Global Youth Advocacy Network, which I believe is what Women in Mining does. The goal is to turn artisanal mining from a survival activity, not just to make ends meet, into a dignified, profitable, and environmentally responsible profession. And finally, our call to action. The revolution has already started. Join it. We need partners to fund and scale youth research partnerships, to invest in accessible mercury-free technologies, to support youth-led cooperatives and startups. Yes, because without the support of our adults, there's so much we can do. There's only so much we can do to mentor the next generation of mining innovators, which is what I believe Women in Mining is doing currently, giving us the right mentorship so that we can become innovators, bringing youth voices to policy and investment tables. And finally, the future of mining will be written by bright minds and brave hearts. Let's write it together. Thank you very much for listening to me. My name is Akimeshori David.
Thank you very much, David, for your presentation. It's always important to remember that there are evidence-based solutions for a lot of the challenges that we are facing in the artisanal and small-scale mining. So we need to improve safety, we need to improve ventilation, and there's technology available. So thank you very much for your presentation this afternoon. I would like to invite our next speaker, Ms. Esther Akimusuri, for her presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, please, we can hear you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. It is
Good
an honor to
afternoon.
be speaking here. My name is Akimushiri Esther, and as other speakers have talked about, I am going to be talking about the role of research and youth in the support and transformation of artisanal. So the reality is that women constitute about 40 to 50% of the ASM workforce in Africa, as we've heard, and that means we have a significant presence in ASM in Africa, but often relegated to labor-intensive and low-paying tasks such as crushing, washing, and sieving, while men are primarily extractors. And we also see that there is historically a data gap in these women being represented. So women are seen as invisible in national mining statistics and GDP calculations. So they also face a lot of challenges: lack of formal land rights, being excluded financially, limited access to banking or investment capital, also a lot of health risks. So where does research and data come in? Data is the new oil. It is the currency by which the world operates, and increasingly so in these past few years. As a statistics major, I understand the importance of data and how these facts and observations that we collect are used for analysis to make informed decisions. There was a quote from Women in Mining Africa that we cannot manage what we do not measure. And it shows that, yes, even though it is with data that we can see that, yes, women have a significant presence in ASM, it's with data that we can observe multiple things that would help us to make informed decisions. So research is no longer restricted to just journals and papers, but it's a tool for making informed decision making, and statistics now translating to policies and social change. So research as a tool, evidence-based advocacy. So research is not just academic, it's not just people typing papers and articles. Of course, that is very important. But now it is the primary engine for policy reform. It is a tool that can be used to force policy changes. Without data, the contributions of women and even youth in ASM would be, one, ignored and remain anecdotal by government. So for example, data censuses can be used to map women miners and in proving that, yes, these people are actually significant and proving their economic contribution to the state. And then using these data, we can now lobby for gender inclusive mining codes that address the needs of female miners, we can identify the gaps, both the data gaps and the vulnerability that these women faces, and most of the issues that they have, and how to close those gaps. So the role of research, number one, like I said, closing the data gap, actually advocating for women by one, including them and noting that yes, women are primarily of importance in ASM, and conducting censuses that will prove that yes, women are primary economic drivers, forcing governments to include them in formalization plans. Also, diffusion of innovation, which means that people who are already educated about these things, particularly youth, educated youth, returning to ASM communities and transferring this knowledge, such as legal compliance, safer mineral processing, business management, and so much more. And then policy advocacy. So the main purpose of data is that we are taking raw information and we are converting it into insights that would now be used to make policy reforms and that would be used to actually make social change. So data showing that women reinvest up to 90% of their income into families is used to lobby for gender inclusive finance rather than generic microloans. So this is an example of how the data that we collect and then analyze can now be used to lobby for appropriate policies that would favor every member of the ASM community. So there are many research focus areas that can be delved into. One of it is demographics. So who are the minors? What is their age structure, education levels? And Dr. Comfort emphasized the importance of data and research earlier on, and she also emphasized, many of the research questions that researchers could go into. So, for example, knowing these people, like, okay, who are they? What is the proportion of youth in the ASM community? What is the proportion of women, as we have seen it is data that provides us that yes, women make up about 40 to 50% of the labor force. Knowing the age structure, okay, how many youth are gradually moving in, what is their education levels, family dependence ratios, many more things to actually tailor support programs that are relevant to each person. So project MSAFE to conducting safety audits to identify specific hazards for women, including pit stability and mercury handling. Also financial flows, analyzing how underpaid and undervalued women are even in the industry, tracking income and reinvestment, showing that yes, where is the money going to? And we have seen that women reinvest up to 90% of their income back into family well-being. So how can policies be made to actually favor them? So I'll be moving to the role of youth in in support and transformation of artisanal mining. As we all know, the world is getting younger, maybe not in age, but in culture and globalization. Gen Z is the rave of the town. With technological innovations, the youth are taking over. So the youth is going to be very important and of huge support in the transformation of artisanal mining. So, for example, the Next Gen initiative empowers young professionals to bridge the gap between traditional practices and modern standards, bringing digital literacy, environmental awareness, and a business mindset that shifts the sector from survival to sustainability. And we also have technological innovation, which is primarily going to be the most important or one of the most important in actually driving change, because we see that technology is taking over. How the world looked 5 years ago, 10 years ago is much different from how it looks now. We have AI, we have these things that are now helping, and even in relation to data, we now have big data, we now have data analysis, machine learning, all these things that could be used to further help the industry and further transform the future of artisanal mining. So we have young entrepreneurs that are launching startups that solve many ASM challenges. So there can be a structure of we have data, and then we have the researchers asking the right question and then using these data analysis to turn this data into insights. And then once these insights become informed decisions, youth involved in startups can now launch startups and use technological innovation to solve these challenges. So it's really a chain rule of success if we look at it. And also we have that, the next gen initiative also mentors young women to take up leadership and technical roles. So we are not just relegating women to roles that we feel are of no importance or undervalued, but women are now leading, women are taking over also. These young professionals act as a bridge, understanding modern compliance and helping informal cooperatives professionalize. We also have knowledge transfer, as you said. One of the most important ways to make change is knowledge. You cannot change what you do not know. So knowledge transfer of educated youth now giving back, even in knowledge to other youth to help bring up the community, people that have technical expertise, introducing safer mineral processing techniques that eliminate mercury use, as some of our speakers have talked about, legal compliance, navigating the complex licensing and regulatory frameworks, and then implementing digital solutions for mapping, tracking production, and accessing markets. Also, moving the sector from just mere extraction to now local processing, now establishing community centers for cutting and polishing gemstones, retaining wealth. So we're not just extracting to import and to feed other nations, but now we are retaining wealth, locally processing these things and then seeing how we can um convert these raw materials, convert these minerals into products that can still be useful in our community, the retention of wealth in our society and in Africa as a continent. Also, skill development, training women and youth in skills that would help, jewelry fabrication, things that can make our resource remain in-house. So the summary is that from diagnostic research to transformative action, that is the plan. So, for example, national mining censuses explicitly counting women and distinguishing the roles, including women first. Policy cannot support what it does not count, shifting the focus from purely observational studies to participatory action research, where researchers help co-design solutions alongside miners. And then also the university can integrate ASM modules into courses like geology, mining, engineering curricula to further boost that, knowledge and exposure to these things, ensuring that the next generation of professionals understand this sector's dynamics, leveraging the youth-led technological solutions for transparency and market access, then creating dedicated accelerators for youth startups, focusing on ESM challenges. So the conclusion is that transformation of artisanal mining in Africa is not just about minerals, it is about people. The research acts as the lens, making the quote-unquote invisible workforce of women now visible to policymakers and investors, and then youth acts as the engine, bringing digital literacy, innovation and business acumen necessary to modernize these antiquated practices. And then women now act as the anchors of stability, reinvesting mining wealth into community health, education, and the local economy. So the research provides the map, the youth drives the vehicle, and women lead the journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Esther Kimusire, for your presentation. Thank you for linking research with the Project SAFE of Women in Mining Africa and the Next Gen, which is one of our key program point agendas. So we try to mentor youths and build their capacity so that they can become peer educators in the mining sector. Thank you so much for your presentation. I would like to invite the last youth presenter, Dr. O.A. Adeyemi, to come and make her presentation.
All right. Okay, can I go on?
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right. Good day, everyone. And I must say, so far, I've really learned a lot from this meeting. And yes, I would also love to contribute to it. And I'm particularly grateful for the facilitators, especially for involving youth towards achieving impact, especially in the mining sector. So my name is Dr. Ujola Adeyemi. I'm a veterinarian and the founder for Tabon Health Foundation. I'm passionate about public health, community well-being, and empowering young people to drive sustainable change. So today I will be exploring a topic that affects not just miners, but the entire communities. I mean community, particularly the community in which mining activity occur. So I'll be speaking from the health perspective as an advocate for Sustainable Development Goal 3. And basically, I must appreciate every speaker who has spoken here. They've given justice to the topic, and I would not want to dwell so much on definitions, and I'll just go straight to my section. So basically, I'll be talking on how improper artisanal mining can cause cancer. And artisanal, I'm so sorry. Okay. Artisanal mining is usually small scaled and it's a labor intensive mining, which is basically often informal and poorly regulated. Workers lack protective equipment and they're usually exposed to dust, chemicals, and fumes. So now they undertake some or they go through some unsafe practices such as the use of mercury for gold extraction, burning of amalgam in open air, poor ventilation in tunnels, inadequate handling of chemicals, lack of safety training, because most of these people do not really have the formal training regarding mining, and their major aim is to mine for the sake of profit without putting to play or without fully understanding the risks that happens when you mine in such an unsafe or unprotected area. The key toxic exposures are heavy metals. Some of our speakers, or most of our speakers, have spoken on mercury as one of the heavy metals and a key toxic exposure when it comes to this illegal mining. And we have the lead, we have the arsenic, we have the cadmium, we have the silica dust, the radon gas, diffuse diesel fumes from machines, and chemical solvents. So now, all of these has a key role to play in causing cancer. Now, what exactly is cancer? In a very simpler term for everyone to understand, it's just a change, a form of mutation in the genes, in the DNA, whereby you see a change from the normal to an abnormal. So now these heavy metals can actually damage the DNA and the cells. And silica dust in particular causes chronic lung inflammation. And that is one of the top causes for lung cancer, especially or particularly among rural community who engage in these mining activities. Radon gas emits radioactive particles, which also causes a change or a mutation in the gene. Now, the problem with all of this is it's these pollutions or these environmental factors do not only affect people who are actively involved in illegal mining, it affects even the nearby communities and generally the community. We have climate action work everywhere where people are striving so hard to ensure that the climate is as stable as possible. But there are these activities that actually destroys our ecosystem, that actually play a role rather in causing environmental damage. So long-term inhalation of fumes causes throat cancer, like I said, throat, that's lung cancer and the skin cancers. Now, we could see, like I was going through some of the pages and some of the videos of people who engage in these practices. And if there is one thing I've come to notice is the amount of skin lesions and burns they get from chemicals and everything they're exposed to. You see most of them with chronic cough and lung disease, and they are not fully aware of the causes of these things. They are just particularly focused on the profit and the gain they make from this mining. So we have the neurological symptoms from mercury, which is very common. And this is something that I've experienced at the clinic, seeing people come with neurological issue and you'd see them exposed to mercury. Because I'm currently in my NYC and I've seen so many rural clinics and I've seen so many people come with such a problem, and it's associated to mining, digging, and even drinking of water that's been polluted with mercury. So I've seen a lot of neurological symptoms as a result of mercury, and there are higher incidence of lung, skin, and bladder cancer. Lung, skin, and bladder cancer. I think lung cancer is the second most common cancer right here in Nigeria, at least following breast cancer. No, sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, all right, thank you. The network went off. Yeah. So we also have reproductive health problems, especially in the male. We have reproductive problems where we see a reduction in the amount of sperm cells in the, yes, so that drastically reduces the chances of raising or offspring or, yes, or giving birth. So the environmental impact we've seen contamination of water sources as a result of these chemicals and flow. Most of this miners just go there, like I said earlier, with the aim of making profit, irrespective of the method, irrespective of the erosion or the washing away of most of these chemicals into a large water body that serve the community. So we can say that fine, this thing doesn't come to us because we are in a clear zone, we are in the urban area, but there is rainfall, there is washing away of water into larger bodies that spread across through many villages, towns in the nation. So why these activities do not only affect those who are they are first-hand practicing this mining, it also affects the larger community. So we have polluted soil and crops. Now we could see a lot of barren lands, we could see all those things. And the interesting part is that most of these crops in which are affected by these chemicals have the ability, when consumed, to also affect those who do not even live around that area. So these activities occur in, like I said earlier, in rural communities. But when they harvest their crops, they bring it down to the urban community, the urban community, and we consume this food, we consume these chemicals. So these, all of these are basically ways to which we can get all those things, even though we are not directly practicing the act of mining. So we have bioaccumulation of toxins in food chain. And this is a major factor, and this is one of the areas in which I'm working on of recent, how this can ascend the food chain, such that when an animal consume it, and we as higher animals try to consume such food, we actually there is every likelihood that we get some of these toxins. And that's an area of research that I'm currently working on at the moment. Then we have community-wide exposure, like I said earlier, to a very large community. It doesn't have to be, it's not necessarily those who are at the forefront of this mining activity, but to everyone. So we have prevention strategies from these, and we have the use of proper PPE masks, that's the gloves, using it during the operation, avoiding open air burning. I think Mr. David already spoke a lot about this, and I won't want to dwell long on that because of the time that I have. So we can improve ventilation in tunnels, regulate air screening. But I would say that in all of this to capital, I strongly very interested and very passionate about policy recommendations, like the government's regulation of small-scale mining, monitoring of heavy metal exposure. Like our speaker will talk on the use of digital and technology basically to handle these things. Then we are phasing out mercury as much as possible and look for alternatives to use there. Then I also advocate for safer mining technologies. There are different technologies that have been proved on over the years and are particularly used in developing countries, or developed countries rather. And you see that the rate of cancer in the US dropped 2 years ago in the mining sector. And this is as a result of the newly developed technologies for mining. So I would want each and every one of us to actually advocate for safer mining technologies and have a government regulation of small-scale farming, small-scale mining. So improper artisanal mining exposes workers to toxic substances that significantly increase cancer risks. And I just like to say, after every of my presentation, that cancer is not like a death sentence as long as it is discovered early, or as long as it is even preventable. So the essence of this meeting that we have here, and the essence of my discussion today, is to actually create awareness on the possible risks of getting cancer through artisanal mining, especially in an area that it is totally unregulated, where we do not have government coming in to ensure that people practice the safe, people put on their PPE, and people do the right things to ensure and minimize the amount of risks of these chemical and toxic substances. So safer practices and proper regulation can protect the health of miners and their community. Like I said at the beginning of my session, I talked about how that those who are at risk of getting cancer through artisanal mining are not necessarily, or not just only, those who are at the forefront of this mining, but to every communities that are associated, that surrounds that community, and to every community in which these products are being sent to, interstate, intercountry, and the like. So it is our duty, our responsibility to report the cases of illegal mining, to reach out to the government in order to provide safety equipment for this mining. And I also want to, just to conclude this, I would like to say a very big thank you to the facilitator of this program, particularly for involving the youth in it, for advocacy, for social impact, and to also reaching out, because all of these things really can be achieved through educating the public, because most people are not fully aware of the risks that come with this. So I want to say a very big thank you once again to the facilitator for the opportunity to first be a part of this program. Like, I've learned a lot, and also to present. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Demi. Thank you very much for your presentation. Wow. We've come so far. We've heard all the presentations by the speakers, and now we would want to do a quick question and answer session before we move to the closing remarks. So I don't know how many of our presenters are still in the room, Dr. Okon, Victoria, and Dr. Apatira. I will just start with my own question. So a lot of the conversations that we have had today has shown a suspicion in mining community.
Antonia, sorry, Dr. Apatira is in the room. She's raising her hand.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, I see that. Let me enable
I didn't
that.
get around to even make my presentation. So getting to answer questions, I don't know.
Oh, sorry, so sorry about that.
I'm
So
sorry,
if you're
the
able
network
to.
was really poor, and I understood that when I was called up, there was no response from my end.
So are you available to continue? Would you like to?
I've been waiting to do that. Although
All
a
right.
lot of what I wanted to say has been said, I'll just do a small run through. May not take up to
Yes,
10 minutes.
please. Yes, please go ahead, ma.
A very good afternoon and happy weekend. I apologize once again. I couldn't help it, network. I was supposed to do a quick presentation, we call it shotgun, on the role of youth. But basically, I titled what I'm going to say into turning research into impact, how Nigerian youths can transform artisanal mining. I just came back from 4 weeks research, although it's in another sector, that's the share butter sector across about 8 states in Nigeria, including Taraba and the like. And I saw quite a number of things. But I'm going to drill this paper down to what I saw in Kebbi State. And at some point, I'm going to talk about it. But why youth in mining? 80% of a lot of statistics have been presented here, but I just want to zoom in on the fact that 80% of Nigeria's artisanal miners are informal workers. Over 2 million youths live in mining community and so are vulnerable. Youth participation is mostly unsafe, unskilled, and underpaid. Three very, very critical things that youths don't joke with, but unfortunately they are forced into. And number 4, research can turn mining into a tech-driven livelihood sector if it is intentionally done. I want us to hold this at the back of our mind that youths are not just labor in mining. They can be innovators, they can be technicians, they can be analysts, they can be entrepreneurs through data, research, and technology. So what is this about Kebbi State? I'll just give a snapshot. In Kebbi, women dominate gold washing, trading, and processing, while youth lead logistics, equipment operations, but comes with very, very low income. There is no price transparency for the miners, so they lose up to 30 to 40% revenue. And of course, this has been said so much. Mercury exposure is high amongst women and youth, especially in communities like Bin, Yauri, Bagudo, Zuru, Fakai. It's something else. So what do we now, why are we now talking about research? Research opportunities exist a lot for youth, including value chain mapping, pricing transparency study and solution, community licensing and rights documentation. I've had a lot being said about the legal aspects. Green technology testing, that's mercury-free refining, has been tried elsewhere. We can domesticate it and bring it here. Digital markets research too. Now, what are these opportunities? Let's put it into startup business. We could look at mobile mineral testing lab, clean refining centers, that's in terms of the mercury use, mining PPE tools for women to close up the safety gap, price transparency apps to close up that 40% value loss, eco-land reclamation. How do we reclaim all those abandoned pits? We can have firms that work around that. So having said all of this, one critical area that is very germane to youth is money. I mean, we can't run away from it. And that is why a lot of things are happening in the sector and they are putting their head in the risk. So how can we have youth fintech app for mining? What would such a fintech app be looking at? Features would include something like real-time mineral prices, book mineral testing, cooperative marketplace. Now that, youths are coming together to form cooperative group, then they should have marketplace that is digital based, impact wallet, where they can have fair escrow payments. And this can be used by women miners, can be used by youth entrepreneurs, by local refiners, by cooperative leaders. So that's an area for young people to look at. And then for environmental innovation, we expect youth to research around pit to farm conversion. I've heard a lot of that about agroforestry, reclamation of reforestation after mining activity. We can also look at pit to fish pond for aquaculture. We can look at eco tracking dashboards, looking at before and after of mining activities. So there's need to create additional youth jobs and reduce deaths from flooding and child drowning in the pits. And these are ways that those can be done. And then I would want to round up by looking seriously at gender inclusion beyond just youth. A lot of the youth, they are the young ones. A lot of the women are the young ones. So we need to start looking at research around women income share, safety hazards in washing and crushing, access to equipment, financing, PPE designed for women miners, particularly because they, from the community where I saw what is happening, that's Kebbi, they are the backbone, but they are excluded from finance, they are excluded from equipment. So there's a very serious need to pay attention to that. So in my final call to action, I would say we need to partner with the youth to build responsible mining in Nigeria by supporting tech-driven youth enterprises in the sector, financing clean, scalable mining hubs, empowering women-led cooperatives, and funding research to unlock sustainable value chains, especially in mining. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma, for that presentation. All right, so we've heard from everyone this afternoon. We have a few minutes to take questions to our speakers. We will start from any questions that are in the chat box, and then we can move on to the speakers.
Dr. Antonia, I'm raising my hand.
Go ahead, Ma.
Okay, thank you so much. Just to reiterate the points Dr. Antonia made, that if you have a question, please drop it in the chat box. If you have a question, please drop it in the chat box, and our speakers are looking so that they can take turns to answer the question. If you have a question, please drop it in the chat box. Then before I make my quick closing comment, I would like to thank the last speaker, Dr. Adeyemi, and the one before her, Dr. Adeyemi as well. Thank you. Your research interest is very, very inspiring, and I would like us to take it up after here. Thank you, Dr. Olukemi. We have a lot to do after now. We don't just want it to be a checklist that an event is done. Rather, we want to have actions taking place because this event held today. Then my remark is regarding access to funding for research. We have these great ideas, even from the next gen who have presented today, our youth, yes, and our also elders, our researchers, the docs and the profs. Thank you all for the great presentation. I hope Dr. Ahmed is still in the room. Yeah. So how do we access finance for research? How do we access finance for research? It's a question that comes up all the time, and I would like to address it very briefly as we are closing. We need to access financing for all these laudable research areas that we have mentioned today. So I'd like to give us a few hints about the pathway for funding research at WiM-Africa, and that the chapters can also imbibe. We have an action plan 2025 to 2030. The funding structure is still being finalized by a few board members who are working on it. However, for research, we have these three models that we adopt already for funding for research. One is that we have to have a nice, or rather a good structure. You have to structure the research properly, because we have proposals that are not well structured, and so upon arrival, it's not even looked into. But we need a clear problem statement, like all of us here have emphasized. We need a measurable research question. We need a clear methodology, the timelines that our researchers want to adopt for the research, and also what are the expected outcomes for that research. So once we are able to establish that in the format of a proposal, then we are good to go. The next point I would like to make is to align that research with bigger agendas. You know, as WiM-Africa, we have the agenda that we put as our, that we align with, that our leaders in Africa have already developed. For instance, like Dr. Ahmed mentioned, the Africa Mining Vision, the AMV. We have the Agenda 2063 as well. We have the Global SDGs Agenda. Yeah. All these have priorities on ESG and also climate resistance priorities, responsible sourcing commitments. They have priorities also on ASM value addition. They have priorities like the AMV have the priorities on formalization programs. Yeah. So this research needs to sit on these frameworks so that financing becomes easier for our different groups, most especially our chapters that are now indicating interest on finance. Then the last point, but not the least, is the partnership approach, which has really worked, Dr. Olukemi. This has really worked, and we want to make sure that this chapter and the CISR is able to adopt this approach, let's have an MOU. You can adopt different approach to funding, but this one I will recommend. Let's have an MOU with the CISR so that we can have a joint research proposal. Yeah, it can be between WiM-Africa, CISR, universities that you may identify, government agencies that you may identify, and even private mining companies, okay, that we can jointly identify together. You see, no institution can go far alone. So WiM-Africa is always working with partners, always, 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 at all levels. So I would like us to explore that opportunities. Mining companies will fund research if it solves their pain points. Yeah, everyone wants to be part of what will reduce their pain. For example, if you have a research regarding plant optimization, regarding safety, or even regarding environmental compliance or GBV, they have diverse research areas. The other next gen lady, Esther, I think she mentioned the project MSAFE. That's the one that boosts safety at the mine sites. And also she mentioned the next gen women in mining. These are thematic research areas that we are already promoting at WiM-Africa, and companies will be interested. So let's not just end this event as an event. Let's have proposals after this event, and whether jointly or chapter-based, or individuals coming in and saying, hey, let's do this. Please, let's have joint research proposals, and let's identify stakeholders, funding partners who can move it forward so that we can develop concept notes and have it ready for submission to these organizations who are interested in gender, in inclusivity, and in mining. So any organization interested in gender issues, in sustainable development regarding inclusivity, and also in mining or solid minerals, these are our target organizations. For instance, UN Women, for instance, African Development Bank, Afrexim Bank, we are already friends with these organizations. We can jointly create proposals and move this conversation from just being here to actual research that we can publish. Thank you, Dr. Ade, for the health-related angle. This is very interesting research area, very, very interesting. And I don't think funding would be a challenge if we properly package the proposals in the structure that I have mentioned earlier. That will be my final word, but I want to also thank everyone in the room. I think the statistics is giving about 30 participants today. Thank you so much for your time and for the interest you have in research to be here today. Our speakers, erudite speakers, thank you for doing your research, even to be here and communicate with us, including our youths that were here today. God bless you. And over to you, Dr. Antonia, for taking the questions, and then we can close. Cheers.
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. I would like to invite Dr. Olukemi Akimsire to give her own closing remarks. Okay, I think she's not available. So thank you, everyone, for joining us at this meeting.
Dr. Ahmed Wada is in the room. Dr. Ahmed, are you there? Okay, over to you, Dr. Antonia. We can wrap up and draw the curtain.
Okay, so on behalf of the Women in Mining Africa, we would like to thank everyone who has joined this engaging session this afternoon. Thank you for your comments, your contribution, your participation. We are very glad for our presenters who have added to our knowledge this afternoon, and we hope that when we call on them on another session, they will be able to join us. Thank you, everyone, and have a good afternoon. Bye for
welcome.
now.
Bye-bye.
All right, sir.
Bye. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're well done.
Bye. Well done. Take care.
Dr.
Bye.
Ahmed, you're back. I was asking after you a while ago.
No. I'll be on now.
Period.
I haven't been away.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought you said I didn't see any questions. So somebody just mentioned there can be collaboration with NYC. That I just saw that. I have not seen any. I didn't see any question.
Okay. Okay.
That's why, just to save our time. Also, it's time now.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Dr. Adeyemi, thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Madam Motupe, I see you. Thank you.
Hello. Got me.
Yeah, Madam Lizzie, Pago. I see you, Madam Lizzie.
Well done, everybody.
Thank you.
I see Dr. Adeola.
Thank you, ma.
Congratulations, ma.
Yes, ma.
Yeah,
Thank
I see
you.
Mr.
Congratulations,
Ibrahim.
ma.
Congratulations again.
Congratulations, ma.
You can put your videos so you can see everyone.
Thank you, all of you. Okay, stop sharing. Stop sharing.
It's like I'm the only man among these women now. Wow. I just see women everywhere. I hope
No,
there's one man
You're
here.
blessed.
I think there's one man here. I need to support me.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ibrahim is here.
I have to. Mr.
I'm
Ibrahim.
also here to support you, sir.
Yes, I know.
Kizito Okpala is
Kizito
here.
is also a man.
To swim
Bosse, Madam Bosse Akimbade, hello. Siboniso from Zimbabwe, hello, I see you. Deborah. Solomon Asiegbu. Yeah. Thank you for staying up to this time. Thank you, Doctor.
So much.
I don't know, Doctor, if you heard my talk regarding financing research. Did you hear that part, or we should share it with you later on?
Yeah, I heard everything.
Okay.
I heard everything.
Okay.
Yes.
Mrs. Lizzie, hello.
Hello, hi. Congratulations once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody.
Thank you all. So I think we can close now. Yeah.
Yeah, bye.
Conversation forward. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.